Addiction thinks in circles, whereas invention thinks in spirals.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
I
Yes.
love it. And spiral is not one dot, it's actually one seed becoming bigger and bigger and bigger
Mhm.
and bigger and bigger and bigger.
So I'm grateful for that. And then two, just the pain just reminding me like this body is so amazing.
Where else can you go
Hmm.
other than inside? And
Hmm.
when you're so almost like forced to face yourself, you find lots of love. Hi.
Hello.
A Noble Life 21,
Pretend like
September
we're
1st.
just starting here. So Carly has this as her sphere of radiance. Um,
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Yeah. Interesting.
Beautiful. Let's speak because you're
So
directly impacted by this. So it's almost actually, yeah.
yeah. So where I wanted to open is actually kind of the end of the shadow here, but it was like the point that spoke to me the most and stuck out the most. The ultimate root of territorial divisions across our planet is distrust in life itself. This is the real human disease. Territory and control through power and money are simply the manifestations of this disease. Um, so just to bridge it for people, if they haven't read, Richard talks about territory as kind of being the example for the need to control. So all control is rooted entirely in a single theme, territory. And there's different ways we can understand territory. There's yourself, your physical, emotional, and intellectual confines of your own being, and the boundary of your aura, which is much wider than what we are conscious of, most of us at least. And we can extend that theme to our relationships, our families, um, in our home, our land, and then it kind of expands out. You can go all the way out to the earth itself and all of humanity, all the countries. And I think territory is an interesting way to look at the need for control as part of the shadow. And all of it is rooted in the distrust in life itself, meaning there's something for me to do because there's nothing upholding it. If I let go, it's all gonna fall apart. It's all gonna go to shit. It's gonna start burning, you know. And then there's two manifestations which happen, which they have the submissive and then the people that are in control, but they're both victims on the opposite side of the coin to the same phenomenon. And the one is victim to the need to control are the people that are in control. And then the other is victims of the controlling factors or the controlling people. And I found that to be like, wow, very interesting. As a side note, when I was 24, 25, I had this like vision for a book I wanted to write all about control. And I was trying to basically do what Richard did here in a very succinct way. I was going to write this whole book about it.
Mm.
And when I went to write about it, it was just like I was trying to touch on like, or show how control works its way into every system and how every system is a manifestation of control and how it's corrupted and all this stuff. But it felt kind of fruitless. It was like, what if it's like I can wake people up to it, but are they going to change, you know?
Mm.
So, but when I read this today, I was like, okay, the books that I want to write or the ideas that I've had, someone else has gotten to it and it has received a download that, I had like a glimpse of or a taste of, and this is a much more comprehensive and succinct way to put it, I thought.
Hmm. Hmm. I mean, but why is it coming back to you again? It doesn't stop by just Richard explaining the shadow.
And it's done. Moving on. No. Yeah.
Next.
Why is it coming back? It's an interesting shadow. I took more of the repressive nature growing up, so I was very quite submissive and people pleasing and not wanting to, ruffle feathers. And I would assume you had not that experience because you're bold and willing to be rebellious out in the open. I was rebellious and quiet or in my own
Mm,
head. So there's that came up for me. And also when I'm thinking about Carly's sphere of radiance being this, I can see her own evolution and her need for control. And it comes and goes. It's like you said in some of our previous talks, we can think we've kind of like worked through a shadow and taken care of it, but it will kind of show itself again in different aspects. And I think the usefulness of that is to ultimately, probably from like the highest perspective, is to allow us to love more deeply. It's just that. It's because when we think we've solved for um our shadows or traumas or whatever it is, then we think we're better than,
mm.
or
We
think
figured it
we're
out.
removed from, we're separate from, and it's like it's still a part of humanity. It's still, and therefore it's still part of each of our stories and each of our lives. And where does it show up for you?
Hmm.
And in a lot of ways, we play both sides of the victim aspect.
Mm.
Because in some elements of my life, I have a need for control, and other elements, I'm more passive, more submissive.
So what you ultimately are saying, don't try to fix it all because it will not be fixed until entire humanity and the veil upon us is lifted somehow, miraculously. Or stuff like this is annihilated from it. I love what you said. And that's so true because, and it comes back to us, that good old saying, we are part of it all. We're part of the bigger picture. We're just out there. We're all one. Out here, we're all 5 million of us, different ones. They're trying and battling. But just when you said it, like I, what you just said, we're all thinking we fixed the shadow, and then here and there comes back and shows up again because entire humanity still has it and lives in it. It felt to me that I don't have to fix my shadows all the time. They will come back. The only difference is I'm aware. I need to learn how to be aware of what am I operating under in order to not suffer that much, right?
Yeah.
Or getting in a loop and zone, or constantly circling back, or pushing the limits of the shadow, which is repressive or reactive too. It's like awareness of it is just, but the shadow is here. It's within us. We all go through this control. I do too, all the time on a daily basis, because the system that we live in actually requires survival of the fittest. And to do that, unfortunately, I have to play my role in the system. What I do when I go to bed and I take a shower and I'm in my silent room alone, it's totally different. And I think, honestly, I am saying this and I'm thinking, it doesn't matter what we do in the system. What actually matters is what you do when you're silent with yourself sitting. And this is the part that comes out of heart, which is actually slowly lifting that veil for the humanity. This is how we contribute. That's how I think I contribute. Now, by just being sad and watching like news, whatever, and donating a bunch of money somewhere, it's actually sitting in the silence and thinking your thoughts, seeing, feeling your shadows, feeling them pass through you, learning about them, taking them in, taking responsibility for them, understanding them, and actually allowing them to do its own thing until they become gift, how I feel it. That's a big contribution. And I do it in my chambers as you are the moment before you go to bed, to sleep, because you go intimately to bed with yourself in the end, every night and every night. So it's beautiful. The shadow control. Oh, go ahead. Shall you say something on all of this?
Yeah, maybe. It's coming up, so we'll see how relevant it truly is. But today I had a assistance with psilocybin, and I was having eyes closed, like going through visuals and all this, the journey. And I have a habit of what I view consciously as a positive trait, which is I'll take situations of struggle or difficulty or frustration or like this isn't working out, and I will I believe that I'm alchemizing it into positivity, into like, we'll keep pushing, we'll keep going, it's gonna work, or look at the bright side and express gratitude, and kind of pushing positive to kind of get away from the negative. And I did this in this journey because I was having some fears come up, and it was like a way to protect. And it immediately after I did it, I'm not sure where this came from, but I had the thought or the feeling, just let that go for once, because that's an aspect of control where you don't feel safe, where you don't feel a trust in life itself to uphold you and to have your back. It's like you're trying to change it was more internal. So it's like it's easy to kind of look at how we do this externally because we all do it, like you said, like the system requires it. But maybe this is I'll just speak for myself and then take what you want out of it. But I saw an internal view of how I control emotions. And I think it's just emotions of like, oh, am I avoiding just feeling that fear? Am I avoiding that frustration? Or is this a useful tool in getting me back on track, and just kind of taking a moment to contemplate both sides? And it's interesting when I had the thought come in of like, don't do this right now. You don't need to change what's happening. It's like everything just shifted suddenly. And it wasn't about the topic. Like the topic just kind of went somewhere else. And all of a sudden it was the creativity that came in. It was like, now it's creation. So it's like interesting, even when we frame it like, oh, I'm doing something positive, I'm manifesting, I'm alchemizing these struggles in this situation, I'm alchemizing the darkness that's in the world. It's like you're actually still a victim of the shadow in a sense. And it wasn't until I had that come through and let go that it was the freshness, the gift of freshness of the creativity on the other side. And I'm not even sure what it was that was created. It was just new experience.
It's a wave. It's like as if like a fresh smell of the ocean in the morning that you don't get the smell. Every breath you take, it just comes and you inhale it. It's new. It kind of permeates through your. But you see, I love that because it can get it's expressing itself through uncommonality, like something so uncommon, unstandardized, unconventional almost, because it's unknown, because it's new, because it's supposed to create its own form. And is it creating together with your energy, or is it creating together with your openness? But it's creating something with you. That's the best part. And with this side of you who is ready, who is charged for it. It has this life force and nudge that gives it emotion or momentum. And then it starts just like waving in it. And I don't know if I touch base on this on our last call, but the art is never created overnight. The art piece, it's sculpted again and again and again and again. And only the artist knows when the art piece is done, which means it's completed. But there's something inside of them that tells them now it feels completed. But yeah, you come back to it, as if these waves keep coming back as a puzzles. We never know what it is initially. But the feeling of it and awareness and recognizing there is a part of me that actually has this little mini square or a tunnel that I can enter is where the potentiality of your extending your fingers and your arms and yourself and your aura and yourself is actually a potentiality of how big you can get. And often what I know, it does not come from what I know how to do very well. It comes from exactly what I don't know how to do. And not having fear to step into it and not physically step into it rather than laughing at it. And that comes with that trust in life.
Yeah.
Like, go ahead.
No, sorry.
I happen just to have a life that I get to live and experience. So why not just taste it? Dare it. That's that little daring, a little inch of you just like, so what if? That second before you jump off the plane to paraglide or bungee jump, that second, that moment, that split second before you enter from being awake to sleep, that lucid state is how I kind of feel it. It's like almost like, oh, how about I do exactly the opposite of what I'm actually fearing right now at this second.
And you equate that to the lucid state, to being like hyper conscious in a way.
I equate it with every state, and there are many. It's not one, and it does not apply to everybody. Every state that it's unknown, but yet inspiring. It has this different taste. It's like you put apple and pear together into one tree and gives you a brand new fruit. Imagine that. And then you get so surprised because you don't know this taste. It's like, of course you're going to be like, oh my God, it's shocking. It's awe. It's wowing. It's very, and it comes like this. And it changes you if you allow it. And I think we all allow it. We just don't go back to it, right? So we often discard it. I used to discard this back in the days, like, nah, it's accidental, or it's not important. It's not here because it's not turning my life consciously every day, every moment of my life, but rather just decides. But now I'm so curious about it. I'm kind of seeking them. And every time I seek them, they don't come. They come when they want, which is that randomness, which is the possibility in unknown randomness. So it's very different. They're never the same. I don't know how to explain all of them as one emotion or one sensation. They're very versatile. They're very different, but I laugh. Like the bottom line is I feel I just grew an inch for something unknown.
And do you feel it relating to your heart or your heart chakra?
Yeah,
like describe the experience.
So the last one I had was just a couple of days ago. And as I was going through my practice with another coach, I was outside my body. I was actually outside and I was to the right side of me. And I was able to feel myself outside of me somehow. And not in the controlling meditative guided meditation where you enter the lift or you enter some excavator and it takes you someplace and you look at yourself from the, we can't even be that. But this one was different. And it wasn't part of my body. It was outside my body. And I
Mm.
was laughing because I was able to look at myself struggling. And as I was looking myself here in this body, I was conscious, I was looking at myself really struggling to like, figure this little mini question that I have as a human being. And I was just spinning, 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 spinning. So I became two and I split. And to me, there was no sensation here, just awareness. And there was a sensation of anger and frustration for not finding. So being able to actually disassociate and be like, oh, this is me feeling frustrated because I can't find the answer and the answer is just nowhere. I now am just layered as a top of it, looking at it with no sensation. So I don't know where it belongs. I don't know which part of the body. It just is. And I don't have, sometimes it has a juicy, peachy taste in my mouth. Sometimes it has this vibration or it just comes as a shock. Zoop, it goes through my body. And I laugh at it. I actually want to poop often. It's really funny. It's like it asks me to go and discharge biologically something from my body immediately. And I'm like, why? So it's weird, but I don't, it's not the same. It's never the same. As if I can only see, I can only describe it as the sculpture or a painting that I'm adding colors onto until it's done. It's not the same color. It's not the same brush. It's not the same stroke. It's never the same.
Hmm.
How does this relate to your inner experience, today's inner experience of you feeling this side of this like layer of you that feels this inspiration?
Yeah, it's I feel it reflected in like the spinning of the wheels and trying to analyze and come up with the reasons and the answers and the whys and the what about it's like what's going on? What about it? I have a tendency, especially when it comes to using most of the psychoactive substances, they tend to put your energy center up here. And if you're already analytical, you become hyper analytical, and it can lead to paranoias or just like you said, like spinning your wheels, you get stuck. Um, and it's interesting because I just learned about a very simple thing, which is okay, we are analytical. We're working mostly on the left side of our brain. We're right-handed. You know, we're trying to organize, structure, control, do this sort of thing. And we don't typically use this side of our brain. One simple tool you can use is just crossing your midline with your limbs, because my right hand is controlled by my left brain, my left hand is controlled by my right brain. What
Mhm.
happens when I cross is now, and it's like I get goosebumps just from crossing.
Mhm.
And your legs too. You can cross your feet.
Uh-huh.
And
Yes.
it's a state of integration where now both sides are kind of like, what's going on? Why are you what are you doing? Like, why is this hand over here? Now I have to control my right hand with this side of the brain, the other
Mhm.
side. And so I was actually doing a stomach massage because I was having some stuck energy in my descending colon, and I was working on it. And I was like, well, let me check the other side. And so I was kind of mirroring and just feeling, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's definitely inflamed. And I came to the center, and then I had the intuition, okay, now I should cross. And when I crossed, so I was like working with my hands, like massaging. I came to the center and I crossed, and I knew like this was gonna happen, but I also like allowed a deepening or a letting go. So I crossed and my hands were like little spiders.
Mhm.
And then I crossed my feet and then my hands just stopped. And I sat there and it was like this. And I had an image of the Egyptians when they're entombed, their arms are crossed. I think maybe their legs are not crossed. I'm not sure, but that came up and it was like, okay, there is some ancient wisdom in how we use our bodies, and especially as it ties to emotions.
Mm.
And for though I think the majority of people probably are analytical because of the system, because of the need for it, right? The like simple exercises that get you in this place of operating at a different frame of mind can help get you into that creative state. But also, like you said, it can be very spontaneous.
Mm, yeah. It reminded me of, have you ever entered a labyrinth?
Um, Not that I know of.
So in Laughlin, near Vegas, there's
Mhm.
this like handmade on a rocks labyrinth that's in the middle of the desert, and it's well known, and it's just in a triangle. And I found a picture the other day about just walking in the labyrinth. Apparently, you enter and you go zigzag like this. Then you come to the center and then you come back to it, right? But the point was you enter with a question that you don't know the answer.
Mm,
And as you flip left and right constantly, you're just changing your directions. You change the way your brain works as well. So rather than actually going in one direction or sitting still, you're constantly orienting your brain to change and think and mix, because now you're entering here and then you're going here and then you're confused and you don't know which way you went, right? So it's total, you create a total chaos out of, and forces it both sides of the brain to actually work, because the chaotic and the organized linear one come in a mush. Then you
mhm.
find the answer. And
Yeah.
I was like, oh my God, brilliant. But that was me in 20s. I did go and I didn't find the answer. So saying this is just it reminded me of the story of it.
Yeah.
But I love it. I love the controlling part of us, really. And I think the controlling part is changing its notion and definition. I don't know. Maybe it's between you and me. It's enough, right? It can be a big deal by the fact that I don't want to control you, who you are, what you do. But that's the hard part to do, and was hard. And often um, it's reflective in relationships around us, in friendships and marriages, in partnerships, in dating, in work, leadership, or you name it, parentship. So it took me a minute to understand how to do that exact thing. I don't want to control you. I can only control me. The part two is now figuring out how not to control me too, either.
Yeah. Mm.
So, question for you. In this life of yours, current time that you're living, do you see both sides? Part one, where you're giving up slowly of controlling others, and part two, when you are giving up of controlling anything in your life, rather than actually learning how to surrender the other to be whatever they're meant to be and want to be, accepting and not trying to actually nudge any change in it, and surrendering to your own existence and your own being.
So the question is, do I have a clear example of that in my own evolution?
Do you feel this controlling thing in both aspects of life is slowly changing?
Hmm.
It's going to prove my thesis or theory.
It's hard for me to answer that because it's like everything changes. So it's kind of like placing like how am I measuring? You know what I mean? Because of
Mm-hmm.
course it changes. Is it
Here, I'll help you.
yeah.
A most recent event when you reacted differently in a community or with your parents or your kids, when you wanted to control something, but yet you caught yourself and you're like, no, actually, no.
Yeah, this happens all the time with the with the kids. Um, I'll catch myself in like a subconscious behavior of getting mad about the kids, like how they're doing something or if they bump into me or Um, and there's just constant opportunities as a parent to change it and to let go, but it doesn't mean I've figured it all out. There's still a lot of controlling happening there.
I mean, parenthood is like a hot stove. Your ass is on all the time. Get
Yeah.
tested like 24%. What about in partnership and friendship?
Yeah. Um, so recent, yeah, partnership. It's almost like we've done so much of that work that it feels, so I'd say in the last year, there's been a huge shift. There's been a huge change. And I'm having a hard time coming up with recent examples because it is like an order of magnitude easier to let go of the need to control Carly than it is to let go of the need to control my kids.
Okay.
It's like the contrast is so great that I'm like, do I control Carly? I'm sure there's instances, but of course, um, I've been able to release a lot of that tendency.
Okay, got it. Okay, so I'll give you the example that it's happening right now. It happened right before the call, how I see it, which is us talking about the upcoming program.
Yeah.
And you wanted to control a lot of it, meaning wanted to actually come up with the idea and control it. That feeling of control is giving you, didn't it give you an anxiety borderline, like, oh my God, I'm not going to be good enough, self-doubt, fear of, oh my God, I don't know what I'm talking about. Am I even relevant? Can I even show up? Who am I? All these different questions. It's very much the fear and sense of control. And when you dropped into the heart and we started talking, there's a totally different layer of, oh, I actually can't control anything. Can you elaborate on two different feelings that you just experienced an hour ago?
Yeah, that's a great example. So we're talking about doing this workshop and hosting people and being a leader of some kind. And when I think of this goes back to like playing small as a child and kind of being submissive. Um, I tend to just stay in my own lane and be quiet and serve others when it's appropriate and kind of be like a yes man, be a people pleaser in that way. And so the idea of getting in front of strangers and presenting or I guess presenting an image of like I figured this out and you're here to learn from me. It was like yeah, it was very anxiety inducing. It was scary to contemplate that reality and often I'll use like imagination to try to calm my nervous system like well let's imagine what it would be like and that was not working at all. It was making it worse. Um, and so through that, I came back to like, okay, if I trust the universe, then the place for me or what's kind of needed or what people want will naturally occur. And I don't need to determine the scope of my contribution or the level of energy that I even come show up with. I'm kind of and there's a level of trust too that's kind of like comforting of I'm glad that I have you as a partner in this and Carly as a partner in this because you both are outspoken, more outgoing. It enables me to be like, well, let's see where they take it. And if they're not pointing me like, hey, share this story, it's like, okay, I can do that. But it's interesting when I finally let go of that desire to like have everything figured out, a structure and a place where I can show up, and even like determining like, well, let me practice this speech over and over and over again so I can be like the guy because who am I? Like why should people listen to me? You go through all um these fears and anxieties. And once I let go of that, it was like when we're talking, so much opened up about just Carly and I's relationship and the things that we've been able to change and integrate and work through, and the difficulties, and just the story alone. There's like, well, I mean, we could teach for a week on just that. So it opened my eyes to like, there's abundance of opportunities of ways that I can share and show up for others. And maybe it happens that way, or maybe it doesn't. But just knowing that, or I guess not knowing, it's like letting go of the need to know.
But consequentially, and just to notate something that I observed as you were talking about, consequentially, you actually went from shadow of control into the gift of this exact key, and maybe even tapped into the city of surrendering. And you, as super mega programmed male in patriarchy, which is permeating every single soul in today's humanity, in this shadow specifically, is actually making us so dual, as if we were actually taught totally off how to behave in this duality between the two polar opposites. So your role is so programmed to be holding, structuring, to have this like very much macho way, as you were saying earlier, rather than the moment you actually embodied your other side of self, the creation just came up and you felt more powerful than you did when you got stuck in the mind. And you actually felt relevant to the humanity, relevant to all the people going through current issues, just being more outspoken, as since you're speaking out of your own unique experience and the lessons learned, and not giving this as someone else to follow for, rather than standing for your own experience, owning your own experience, being responsible for your own errors, mistakes, chances that you took, you failed, and you stood up again to try. And that itself is powerful, very, very powerful. So rather than permeating and speaking on behalf of pain, you tapped on it as a shadow. And I hope we actually flipped the amount of time we spend just speaking on shadows, but we tapped into the shadow, acknowledge it is there, realize that you're aware of it, and actually speaking on how you tapped from shadow to gift. What is that happen? What triggered what for your awareness to come to realization? And can you do it on your own? Do you need someone else to help you poke it for you to open up? And how can we do for others as well, if even possible to be done with others? So I think it's perfect leeway from one to another way, because you just experienced the exact same thing and you felt so powerful, so powerful. Just to say one more thing too, that I felt power with you, which is now two different energies blended into one, more powerful because they're and more respectful of one another, that actually can create something totally different. Powerful, super cool.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Isn't this so funny? This is the first shadow that we didn't really talk about, but yet we just kind of smoothly are moving. Progress.
Yeah, something that came up as we jump into the gift here, just real quick, is the gift is authority. And I was thinking about the pressure to perform and performance versus authenticity, was like, that seemed like a key distinction for kind of what we're talking about, performance versus authenticity. And there's so much talk, at least I see it on social media, of like, you are successful when you're authentic to yourself. But it's like how much it gets tossed around, and that's just another way to virtue signal. It's like a trap within itself. But I was thinking about like authority and authenticity have the same root word, which is auth. And I looked it up here.
Auth.
Auth. It says the process or action of verifying the identity of a user or process. So it's almost in performance, you're not identifying the process that you're going through. You're not identifying the human that you are. You're disidentifying and you're trying to control an outcome with whatever you view as like, this is how you get there, this performance.
Are you speaking of a word auth?
Yeah, AUTH, like the root word for authority
Mm-hmm.
and authenticity.
So is it this process of controlling the process? Sorry, is it like controlling the process or is it opposite of it?
It's just verifying. It's a process or action of verifying. So it's almost like
Mm.
um in performance or acting or controlling, we aren't verifying. And I would almost go a step further and say we're not verifying the truth,
Mm. Mm.
right? It's like the truth isn't verified because you're stepping into something that you're controlling, right? Which is a victim state. So
Mm.
the truth of who you are isn't able to reveal itself in that sense.
Mm. Mm. I'll take a step further. And what if you are everyday different one?
Right. Exactly. So,
Because we are.
yeah.
I am. Every hour nowadays.
Mm.
So authenticity comes back down to the integrity and trusting to you, yourself, your higher self. This like big me that sits right behind me, that is just like looking down on how I'm playing all these little tricks of the mind. But today, I don't belong anywhere, right? Statement, bold statement of authentic self expression. Tomorrow, I may belong to Martians. Bold, authentic statement, right? So what you just said earlier is like, how do we come when let me just add this note. I think it's really small. It's like the fine letters that no one reads on the label. Yes, people today, we see it on social media, people speak that they're all authentic self, and it's just causing a lot of confusion.
Yeah.
It almost feels like, because everybody has something to say, true, and everybody speaks that they're all authentic selves, true, but how come we don't resonate with everybody? There's this like almost as if when you speak the same word, the same statement from a very different side of inside of you, there's a resonance in it. There's a resonant you actually want to hear rather than passing here to here.
Mm.
And I think that's the difference, that people are smart. We are smart. And now we are able to, today, we're all able to read bullshit
Yeah.
energetically.
Yeah.
And if someone is full of shit, especially if you are aware of your layers of yourself, right? So you just know that you cannot read that book, right? So you just know that you wouldn't be able to go to this person's workshop or listen to or read the book, right? So there is a resonance in everything that we say, everything that we do, and from what parts of ourselves we speak from. I don't know what part of me I speak from, but I do know when I read Ram Dass's book, I feel very elevated. When I read Rupert Sheldrake's book, I feel very inspired. And Shakespeare doesn't give me that, right? Shakespeare gives me pain body. I resonate when I'm in pain, right? So it's like there are resonances with authentic integrity, but Shakespeare came from the field of different field of creation. Rupert came from a different field of creation. Gene Keys, which we're still reading 9 months later, really, really discipline. This is my first disciplinary like consistency that I am sticking with without even trying. But anyway, he came from a different field. So if Richard were to talk about creating a 401k account and making money off of crypto, would you resonate? See? So to me, that's authentic. Understanding that nobody comes with the truth actually for all. Everybody comes with the current experience, and it's only relevant to some people, maybe even none. Acceptance of it is like, maybe we will have nobody show up. It's up to us to figure out how we're going to accept that. Right? So, but it's the possibility. Maybe nobody resonates with what we have to say, because why? It's not new. Unless we create something new. And so, I don't know, for people that we invite, maybe it's new. But I'm spinning in circles anyway. It's like there's a resonance that comes out of truth, of deep, deep, deep self-truth of the person that you're following, listening, or want to hear what they have to say or feel. And that truth can also be a bullshit in a year from now for you. Exact same thing. Why? We don't know. Don't we all hate our gurus in the end?
In the end, what do you, what?
All gurus flip to be like super. You heard of like Dolores Cannon. I'll just give you the example. Dolores Cannon.
Yeah.
He was super, super into like all this like, stuff and spirituality, and flipped upside down to, was it religious freak? Christianity and stuff and Jesus and Bible and everything is just like, whoop, went upside down.
She did, and she changed in the end. I don't know. I wasn't. Oh, okay.
Out of blue. And then a lot of teachers, like tantric teachers that are preaching something, and students that are so into worshiping them end up just flipping out and hating them so much. So it's all the process anyway.
Yeah. And to touch on, I think there's something being said here about the human experience being so varied and vast that it's like even the attempt to talk about authenticity is super strained and difficult because it's an individual's perspective. So I don't know, maybe what sounds authentic to me doesn't sound authentic to you because of your experiences. You have a different like bullshit radar, or you have things that you just don't resonate with. Like you said, like it's just resonance or the ability to pick up on that. And we're at different stages. Some of us are more ready than others. Yeah.
But to add to that, I can hear what you have to say about your relationship, even though I'm on a complete opposite side of it, right? So I'm not in a relationship, I'm not in a straight connection with anyone, right? So you have a different story, but I hear it because there's a purity in it. The way you speak is that vulnerability. And I think that's what makes it authentic as your own experience, that now I hear, I trust it as it's your own experience. With it, I don't want to change it. I can't tell you what to do because it's not my experience, it's yours. I can just hear it. So I'm able to actually hear your purity in it and your evolution and your experience, and hear it as a part of overall whatever experience of uniqueness for you. But he touches base here on the equality, and I think we need to really touch on this when it comes to authority, is like this plays a big role in a heterosexual couples and also in a homosexual couples. From my experience, is that maybe you can touch base on what does this mean to not flip the role and not suddenly destroy patriarchy and what we're programmed to do and create matriarchy, rather than actually realizing these two differences. How do you see authority playing in a heterosexual relationship with someone?
Yeah. So he kind of subtitles this section, "The Authority of Submission." And I think that just is going to point to where I'm headed with this. But the relationship between authority and submission is the relationship between the yin and yang, between the male and female energies throughout the universe. And in this way, the male polarity represents authority, and the female represents the subject or servant of that authority. And he talks about the interplay of how this works out in our culture. But the beauty and magic of the 21st gift occurs when both sides of the relationship surrender to each other. When the authority becomes the servant and the servant becomes the authority, then the relationship really hums with power. And in my experience with this, I didn't feel powerful as the masculine polarity until Carly was able to submit in a way that just like transcended whatever frustration, difficulty, control aspect that I was putting on top. She's very good now about if I'm being difficult or requiring extreme, behavior, she is like, okay, do it. She like, whatever. Okay. And there's a fine line between like, um, the repressed submissive, but, and the submission of, I got you. And it's almost, and that's how it feels is like when whether it's good or bad, whether I'm like doing it because I haven't dealt with something and she's submitting to give me space to kind of see it. And that's what happens is she kind of submits and sits back and allows it to be. And all of a sudden I'm faced with my own bullshit because I don't have her reacting to me. And then it's like, okay, I got the fight that my subconscious was looking for, or I got this interplay of trying to compete. And then on the positive side, her submitting in a totally paradoxical way, her submitting to me, there's an aspect of if you haven't like totally figured this out in yourself, if you haven't identified the aspects of yourself that want to control, and you're holding the masculine polarity, and you go with a female who's like really good at this, or a female polarity that's really good with this, it will make you crawl out of your skin. And this happened a few times where it's like, I can't handle how submissive you're being. And it's like, and you hear this, and then all of a sudden it like puts you in this spiral, or you have to break down. And then he talks about that in the extreme reactive nature for control freaks. It's like there are kind of people who can only be humbled by deep physical or emotional crisis.
Mm.
And they meet crisis in their life because they are unable to let go. And often a female polarity that can hold a tremendous amount of space can like what's the word? Can trigger that crisis for that person without having it be like a car crash or someone died, or it's like extremely powerful. So in a way, it's like the when Carly submits to that level, the need to control in the shadow is upset because there's a level of now I need to submit, right? It's I don't know if this is gonna make sense. Like I know you're smiling, so you get it, but maybe you can help me.
Okay, so what I'm hearing you saying is that when she submits, but I just want to make sure I understand correctly, not to you as the male role in this to control everything, rather than she submits to life and allows it to happen.
Yeah.
Is where your role of a male, a typical patriarchal role of a male, totally dismantles in pieces. Because now you're faced with yourself who wants to control and wants war.
Yeah.
And as you're faced alone, standing here, you have a wife who actually is accepting of your tantrums or fire, let's just say fire that comes up and arouses you to react somehow. And then you have no other option than actually to totally surrender to what there is. And as you surrender to this fire, it diminishes it down and it actually flips the role between you as a male, her as a female that we know of, we're programmed to, into a completely opposite side. You genuinely surrender to the what you experienced as authority of the feminine energy, which is not to change you, which is not to go to war with you, which is not, it's actually to accept you fully in your experience in the moment and nurture that part of you. The nurturing is not cradling you or feeding you or washing your laundry. It's actually nurturing your states that you're going through.
Yeah.
Go cut your hair, go do your own thing. I'm still here the same.
Yeah.
Nothing changed. The love, the role, me. In fact, I expanded more because I was able to allow you to be you. That to me, as her, is expansion on its own. But I want to see you do the same. With it, I don't want to control anything. I surrender to the experience.
Yeah, and you touched on expansion, and it's as we become addicted to the states of stress that most of us are, like if you don't realize it, you're addicted to the stress that you carry, the emotions that like that's what kind of pushes you through. And so when you meet this force of authority, of expansiveness, it is like totally disarming. You have no weapon to hold because there's nowhere to put it. There's no fight to be had. There's nothing to fight against. And I'll just give an example. This happened a month or two after we had our almost separation this year. And she was going to take the boys out for while I was doing the podcast with you. And she was talking about going to the drum circle where they have dance and going to the beach. And I was, in hindsight, I was feeling jealous. But I wasn't aware of it. So I was implementing aspects of control and saying, well, you should just go down and go to the park close by. You should just go do this. You should. And then she had learned this response, and she was expansive, but she held her own authority, and she said, I'm still gonna do what I want. I'm still gonna go to the thing. And she carried on, and she didn't throw it in my face. She wasn't rude about it. She just stated it and carried on. And she left the driveway, and I remember going back inside, and I was just fuming, like rage. Oh, like why? And then I just sat with it, and I was like, there has to be something else here. How can I be so mad that she didn't do exactly as I said when it's like there's no impact on my life what they're doing. And I was like, wait, is there an impact? Okay, I actually wanted to go and be a part of that, so I'm feeling jealous. Okay, let me just acknowledge the feeling of jealousy. So in her expansion, and it looks different, each situation is very different, but she was able to expand in the way that fit the situation, and then I was able then to face whatever it is, and I could choose to accept it or reject it. And then she's hoping I don't come home and he's wanting to fight some more, because then it's another level of she has to even expand further to accept that state. But I was able to accept it. She came home, I apologized and said I was just jealous because I want to be a part of it. And she said, thank you, I know. And it's in that interaction that I'm submitting. It's I have to let go of my need for control and the ego. And it feels like if that's important to me to be the one on top all the time, it feels like I'm being weak. You put words with it, you label it as weak or submissive, or you're not being manly, you're not being strong, you're not holding it down for the family. But now I see it as like in this polarity, the paradox is the feminine is the one that holds the true authority, the ability to be expansive and to submit and to open that space and be nurturing for whatever comes up. That is the ultimate authority, and it aligns with the ability to trust the universe. And it's interesting. My model that I have of the universe is we have father mind and mother, like the all or the space or the darkness or the void that holds it all, like the mother of all. And it's like that is when I say trust the universe, I'm not talking about like this mental aspect that there's a plan or that there's knowledge or that someone's got it figured out. It's the feminine aspect, that trust, that surrender is so deep.
2 cents on clarification when it comes to words surrender and submission of a female. Must add. Beautifully, you explained beautifully the states and you reworded it in your own experience in a different way. I just want to add extension to and not really honor Carly's processing too. Because when you exchange such fiery energy, two are impacted. It's not only one. To be able to actually say and allow you be you, I'm going to stick with me, takes a lot of energy and a lot of power too.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other part is like when we exchange such energies like this, it's like I blend your reality. I bend it because I'm part of it, right? So you shift my reality, but you also shift mine too, because you add all this weight on me that now I have to process on. So it's not as it's not how I process these things. It's not as easy. Sometimes it does take screaming. Sometimes it does take punching, sleeping, taking shower. There's a whole nother process that it's unique to all of us. And feminine females in today's patriarchy, I'm not saying we have so much more layers to peel off and actually work with. What I'm saying, our automatic response is to submit to the control of the other. And to be able to actually stand against it, it takes a lot of bravery because you're risking potential loss of everything that you built so far, right? So by just default, you can just get up and go and entire structure falls apart, right? So that's the fear and innate fear that we have. Also, you're physically much stronger. You can eat me alive.
Yeah, right. The safety aspect.
Yeah, that's another fear. But you're standing in front of the like potential crocodile that can just like chop you in pieces, right? So there's a lot of this that comes in it. I just want to honor that she's actually able to calmly do it. But the way that she did it, because I sensed her energy when I met her, is, and if this energy is still her energy, right? So 2 years later, speaking from experience, is that if I want to control something to someone, doesn't matter, male, female, mom, dad, whoever, it's like I'm really aggressive about it, rather than if I want to accept genuinely and turn this aggression into, but I genuinely want you to be a better person. Or, no, scratch that. It even sounds wrong. I genuinely want you to experience what you're about to experience and come out better, bigger, stronger.
Right.
And that is submission. That is the way of trusting rather than submitting to your control or your tantrums or your emotional states. So there is that differentiation that I feel like the submission to the emotional states of depression or a burden or victimization is totally different thing that we're not talking about here, rather than actually a huge trust in a life force, in a cosmic powers, in something much, much bigger than you, that you know with capital K, that there is a knowing in within. And only she and only you can find that within yourself. And it's not the same for everybody. It is very different. The process to find it is very different. But what I see in me is that the more you're exposed to this situations and events, the more you come, right, in a battleship the more both of you are realizing it's slowly but surely, you're actually reprogramming yourself to automatically come by default into this loving presence and this hug that is needed. So these things, the more they happen, the faster you actually get there. But the more they happen, the more risk there is with potential disruption and to destroy everything that you built together. So it takes both, right? So it's not that easy as just waking up one day and saying, I don't really care, you can do whatever you want. That's a totally different way of saying, rather than, hey, babe, I see you.
Yeah.
And I'll be here when you come around. Totally different. So
Yeah. Something that came up as a very different example, but one where I actually get to hold that not passive, but the expansive polarity is when our kids have tantrums. And I've mentioned this a few times, but we have a process and we call it squeezes. So I'll take them to the bedroom and so it's like full-fledged. They're already in the tantrum. So there's scratching, biting, kicking, yelling, they're sweating, they're frustrated. And it's just a process, it's an opportunity to just hold them in that and just remind them continually, like, I love you, I got you, and this is important. And there's a shift that happens when I get to a point when it's they've kind of gotten the majority of their emotions like expressed. And then if I let them know, if I validate in some way the emotions that they're going through. So I'll say something like, it's good to cry. And usually their first reaction is, no, it's not. Don't say that. And they're just like so mad. But it's like instantaneously they have like they'll kind of soften in some aspect. They might still have more fight, but they feel seen, and it's just another aspect of love that the female polarity has an opportunity to express, which is the underlying fabric of this thing that we're talking about. It comes back to love, right? The unconditional love. And so without condition, it's extremely difficult to do that. And to touch on what you were saying, like it's not this passive, super easy thing, like do whatever the fuck you want, I don't care. Because you're kind of escaping from the truth of the experience. So I could do that with my kids and just ignore them. But instead I'm validating, I'm holding them, I'm in the experience with them, and it takes a tremendous amount of work, like you're saying. Like it is the energy you feel from another when they're projecting onto you, that masculine polarity. It is a lot to hold on to, and it's such a trial for me every time. I'm like, I don't know if I can get through this tantrum this time. I have to, I'm doing my own processing, and sometimes I cry with them. Often I'll laugh because it just seems ridiculous, and I'll just have to laugh. Or yeah.
Ridiculous that they have a life crisis moment. Their life is really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So yeah, I thought that was relevant.
that's so beautiful. And to be able to actually do this with someone is even more beautiful at the same time.
Mhm.
And now we can talk about the February and March, right? It's like but one more thing to say, I have to say this. When we are under that parasympathetic or sympathetic nervous system is all whacked, right? So when we are not regulated in our emotional states, we're always stuck in our mind. And when we're stuck in a mind, the end of the world is coming. Yeah. It's upon us. The dark cloud is above us, and we're the only victim here. Everything, nothing helps. But to understand and to use the mind to understand that it is a temporary process. It has to pass through the body chemically and alchemically and fuse everything that it has to fuse is everything. And that alone is like, oh, shit. My Sunday totally is now out of my control because mind needs what he wants, and there's a chemical process that I have to sit here and wait. So I might as well just binge watch Kardashians, trash TV, and stuff like that, right? But I'm not saying specifically that, but it is the passing wave and the body of humans. We have emotions for a reason. We also have mind and conscious, and for a reason too. And playing with it, it's beautiful. So to see you come on the other side of it and actually expand, it's just really, really beautiful. Like, yeah, the end of the world is never the end of the world. It's just the beginning. Easier said than done. It's great to have someone you can call and cry together with.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Shall you speak on Valour? Because this one is beautiful, but somehow, I don't know. I thought you should talk about Valour more than me.
Can I poke at you a little bit?
Yeah.
Is it, I think 19 for you was like, it didn't like have any flavor to it. It was kind of just like you read it, it was like, okay,
Okay.
if I'm remembering correctly.
Let me sacrifice. Oh, that's my culture.
Oh, gotcha. Maybe it was 18. Anyway,
Mm.
I'm just wondering, what was the perfection? What was the feeling as you read this? Was there nothing?
I think it was word itself. As I think of Valour, it's very heroic. And winners, I kind of want you to dismantle this word in itself, and kind of move it away from what we know of as heroes of wars, right? So, who is hero and who writes the story and the history and stuff like that. So to me has totally different meaning here in the city and an enlightened state of it, which is very noble. And it's also a waiting for 55 to initiate this massive change.
Yeah. So, yeah, he talked about valor as we know it, like being associated with nobility, kings and queens, emperors and empresses, warriors in battle, and kind of like, and it's true, it contains virtue, wisdom, love, courage, and sacrifice being the most important. But valor in this sense, he's talking about it as it relates to communion, the 45th city. So communion is about the merging of your individual being into higher collective being. And this is precisely what happens through the frequency of valor. And valor doesn't need action. It is a vibration of intensity that makes the hearts of others weep.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of it kind of just continues the theme. Like it doesn't really change how we view valor, right? But now he introduces the poles and talking about the resistance between the opposite poles in relationships. So valor is the bowing of one being to the nobility within another. And we all, in that aspect, we all hold valor, or we've all had experiences to express or represent valor in that way. But it is about the absolute surrender of control when it comes to hierarchy, which is, it's like flipping the script, right? It's flipping the story on its head, because we think of like Camelot or the kings and queens of the past, the victorious warriors who are just brave in battle and did anything for their nation or their country. But in this sense, it's not about position. It's about the surrendering itself. Valor is the absolute courage and love of seeing the divine reflection within the face of another, no matter how unpleasant that other may appear to be.
Hmm.
Oh, this is so interesting because something that happens for me in medicine states is I'll have like fears come up, and with fears are associated, like today, I just had really bizarre, very clear, you can almost call them like demons, like imaginations of evil or forces that are against you, or aspects of humanity that have gone rotten, have gone stale and become totally immersed in themselves. And through my experiences, I've come to like find, how can I love this thing, whatever it is, this monster or this demon or this, and it's usually looking at it as, okay, you've been wounded, you've been hurt, you've experienced, you've experienced some of the things I've experienced. You didn't have an opportunity to heal. Okay, let me just see that in you. Let me recognize in you, and look past what is manifesting in this like scary appearance, and actually see that you're trying to gain power through control of others and have the energy exchange of fear playing into your ability to survive in the world. And it's like, in recognizing the wounding that we all share, there's a surrender, and then the scene kind of shifts, and then there's an opportunity then to recognize, I guess what Richard's talking about is the valor, the nobility that we all share. And in that, there's a healing that takes place within, because ultimately those states that I'm experiencing, or those images that are showing up for me, are opportunities to expand my heart and love deeper and love more fully, and commit to like, okay, this is scary. Can I see it for more than what it appears on the surface? Can I look deeper within? And then what ends up happening is like this energy just releases from the heart.
You tapped into one of the ways, tantric ways, to actually do this exact thing that you experience, is like recognize these parts. And these parts of you are perceptions of you, of that come in the different forms. It can be a monster, a devil, evil, demon, or like some Bruce Lee way of looking at the demons, right? And finding the part of you that will come and kind of slowly integrate them into the reality. And I think we were talking about this last time as well. It's like, how do you recognize when they are so strong and present? And instead of running away from them and repressing, turning around, running away, rather than you actually look at it, and all these questions that you asked is really integrating this part of you into it. Saying or believing, which I used to do back in the past, that this is not my energy.
Yeah.
It does me nothing, actually. But relearning how to accept it as my own perception, as my own energy, and take it within me and absorb it and accept it and find it supporting roles within me, meaning I can actually, not only that the energy space is, you feel more energetically released, but what happened is that this part of you that was so disassociated and you thought it's not part of you now became part of you, which means the energy that held and the space that it held now feels like it's released because it no longer plays the role in the backhand of the life. So it's interesting that you pointed it out, and you pointed it out without me even saying this to you. And yet I'm going 8 months in school just to learn this one thing that you just came up with naturally. Beautiful. And it's giving the power to all your parts that show up. So I don't know, does it only come when you're under the influence of medicine? And can this be rationalized or understood in the sober mind? Sober as not altered.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the way I experience it is psilocybin specifically helps me to anthropomorphize. It like creates a character for it. It helps, it's very clear, comes in clear as day. This scary thing. And it also, it's like, I think how do you talk about this experience?
Maybe you
Can you find it when you're sober? I think you can like actively make an attempt to look for things that are hidden from you. But that's exactly what is it. That's exactly what it is in my mind, is my experience. It's the subconscious showing up. So when I'm in these states, it's my subconscious is like, you have fears that you haven't processed, whether it's from going to a social outing where it was like mega uncomfortable and you didn't know how to talk about it, you didn't know you didn't know what to do with your body, you felt out of place, or your kid was in danger and you had a moment of like panic, but you had to stuff it down and be strong for them. So it's just like unpacking your suitcase after long travel. And I think absolutely you can do it in sober states. It just might take the time and energy and attention that you don't give yourself. And I think that's what, honestly, I think that's what psilocybin helps me do is it's like these sensations I'm having is a lot. And when I close my eyes, there's a lot going on. So let me just go lay down. And when I lay down, I'm not on my phone. I can't handle that right now. I'm not distracting. I'm not reading a book. I'm just laying and this stuff will show up. And it's like the only time we really give ourselves that opportunity is during sleep. And most of us don't get enough sleep in our lives. So we pass out instantly. And a lot of that subconscious processing is happening in dream states, and astral states, that sort of thing. And there's a value in like this conscious perspective and having guides help you, or having like a guided meditation that can help you go into it. But I know that using psychoactives isn't really your thing, so maybe you could speak to kind of that process, how it unfolds for you, or
But you see, but it doesn't mean it doesn't work for you. And I'll go back to the Valour quickly because this is so relevant. It's like it doesn't really, to you, it doesn't matter what it works for me. And I want to just touch base on this. I think it's so powerful because so when he speaks of Valour, he speaks between two energies, and he relates it in the between male and female, right? So the surrender and okay, let me just read it. Okay, so the controlling part versus not controlling part. Compromising, I'm fine if you do it, but really not feeling that I'm fine if you do it, versus I actually if this works for you, I want to learn how to accept it if I don't know how to, right? So that's the part that it's like, it doesn't really matter. Does it work for me or not? I like to play with my mind and explore different things. Maybe tomorrow I'll change my mind and, be in Hawaii doing the same thing on a couch. And you'll just laugh at me because the guy told you. But that's also the possibility, right? So I am trying to see and test and psychoanalyze my own mind by doing it a different way. Because not that I'm afraid of it, I tried it before. There's a lot of creation that comes out of it, but I also have a headache 3 days afterwards because I'm totally dehydrated.
Yeah.
And 3 times I did it, and 3 times I had a headache, and I was like, oh my God, I'm about to die after this. So I don't know. Maybe it's the stuff that I used, and right. So I don't really know. But to me, it was like, but I want to be able to get to these states without using anything else, right? So to me, the breath did help, the breath work.
Yeah.
I can't get there every time though. And that's another thing, is like, okay, can I get into it once I allow my mind to actually wander around? And some will say this is dreaming, delusional, or fantasy land, which is very Piscean, right? It's very easy for us to extend our minds out there and kind of just like flow around on the be Aladdin or whoever. It's easy for me to do that. And I really like when I enter these states because they're very playful. And what comes out of it is very much not running away from the past and traumas. What comes out of it, I see it, I feel you, but come on over, let me grab a hand and let's go on a swing. Because there's a park out there and I want to play. And in this park, I found this little toy that led me to a Alice in Wonderland. And it's beautiful. It's colorful. There's a different, right? So I take off. And to me, this actually expands me. So it's very unique to everybody. And I think it's relevant to the time that you live in, the environment you surround yourself with, people that you blend your energies with. It's like somehow it affects all these states of psyche on a deeper level that can come from different forms of playing with it and tapping into it and kind of just teasing it. But I wanted just to ask you about something related to the Valour that he explains here is between male and female. And as if like I see it in the 2 different layers. The layer that I hear, that I see when feminine is rising right now and everybody's doing the feminine movements and it's all about sexuality. And I know you have a lot to say on it because you've been sending me all these video clips. Is it true or not? Right? So, but we're doing something. Let's just theorize. If something is moving and it's moving on a massive amount of levels between in the female identified energies and bodies. We're grouping together, we're creating containers, there's a richness, the powerness, the goddess power that just is rising and it's becoming very trendy. So everybody's doing it. And of course, at the same time, you'll have the total opposite of the enough energy, equally enough energy, not believing in it, right? So it's very dualistic. It's very, you're either here or you're here. It's present. But at the same time, there's the male that feels suppressed, as if it's not enough, and it's trying to find the role into this new rising of a feminine power, but also leaves us dualistic. And what I find and what I hear is that worshiping my wife is the way to go. With it, I'm just gonna wash the dishes, cook, provide, and do everything that she doesn't want to do. So she has her time to evolve into the higher power, right? Worshipping of a body male, a female, to me is very different from valor and actually respecting the divine power of one. It doesn't matter are you female or male. So I need to read this because I highlighted it. It says, valor is the absolute courage and love of seeing the divine reflection within the face of another, no matter how unpleasant that other may appear to be. So, as marriages are falling apart, and everything's getting rattled. Mega quakes are happening, right? So, and it doesn't matter that are you 7 or 20 or 30 years together, it doesn't matter. Something is shifting, and it almost feels like this polarity between feminine and masculine energy is just becoming even bigger and bigger. And it's challenging for two to come back together and find the commonality, because each wants its own individuality to be expressed, because it was suppressed before, and more we express it, more you suppress, and etc. So it almost feels like it's the combustion engine. It's like really, it almost looks like, this is what I'm hearing. I'm not in one, I don't know. I just have two energies within me that are playing the same role, same exact way. So the question is, do you feel that you can, that it comes to you easier to worship your wife and take all the responsibility, or to see if you can get to a state of actually respecting her in as you would yourself? The divine reflection of the power that it has nothing to do with her role in the house and mother who creates kids. Do you see the distinction between two different ways of worshiping and actually admiring? The one that you have to explain to the entire world that you do, because this is who I am now. I don't mind it. I'm going to be loud. I'm going to show it to the world. And the one that no one knows other than you how to do, and has no need to be explained to anybody other than her. And you don't even need to tell her. She's going to feel.
Yeah. Do you feel like the worship, I think the answer is kind of, it seems like a rhetorical question. So I'm just going to go along with it. But does worshiping to you feel like virtue signaling?
Say more.
Because you mentioning like, oh, my wife is a goddess, and I want everyone to know my wife is a goddess. I do everything for her. It's like it's a very external focus. Like, do you
Yeah.
think anyone's like looking at their wife as a goddess and not talking about it?
No, but you tell me. I don't know.
Um, it's a very interesting dynamic, because I think as you're talking about, the polarities are shifting dramatically. We we as in Carly and I are changing along with it. So there's been days when I'm like, I worship this goddess. Um, and then there's been times this weekend where I'm like, I am not able to function at a level that's helping you to feel like a goddess. Like, I need some help here. And that's more of accepting the full capacity of what she's able to bring, and the humanness of both herself and myself, because there's a immense pressure with when it comes to worship, right? It's like not only on the person you're worshiping, but also on the worshiper, because you don't get to take a break. You don't get to rest. You don't get to ask for help. And I think that's an important topic. And I think we'll see if it comes up in our workshop. But the male already existing in a patriarchal society, having to do X, Y, and Z, and now it's like, shut up and do more. Shut up and worship me. Or like, you should do this with your wife. So it's not even from, I don't feel like it's coming from the wives. I feel like it's coming from the narrative that's being put out. And so it's like, where men are already suppressed, it's even thicker now. It's like, and I think that leads to these states of frustration and breaking point. There's no outlet. There's no like way to even connect, because as we talk about authority, we talk how that's related with authenticity. The act of worshiping your wife as a goddess is just a performance.
There
And I
you
think
go.
that's what you're talking about. It's
Yes.
not authentic.
There you go. That's exactly, because again, that's why I had to separate it into two levels or two
Yeah.
separate entities. And to me, to my logical brain, visually to understand that it's one below the other. And when you're operating at this level, it's very performative.
Yeah.
So how I saw this in my past is like, I will show you a better way. I will do everything for you, but I'm also expecting you to perform at my level. That's very conditional. That's not
Yeah.
love.
Mm-hmm.
It's performance. And out there, we're gonna look really cool and happy, but inside it's a whole mess, right? Example. But if I'm looking at you from this level, which is totally everything that we talked about, I don't want to change you. I want you to be successful. You really don't need to take care of me and wash my laundry. I got it. I will do it for you too, gladly, no problem. Let me feed you. Your body means, your energy means a lot to me, but you're hungry and I want to gift this to you. It's as if like there's this way of doing it. And I don't know if this is even possible. I'm not in a relationship. I really, not that I wasn't, just want to make sure I clarify that not that I don't have experience, but you're living actively in one, which is every single day doing it. This level of feeling, believing, and thinking pushes the structure that we live in. Meaning, again, that house, it actually requires to open the windows and open the doors so the air comes in as you come and as you go, right? So today I feel I look at you as the energy that really falls really nicely on me. And I'm going to write you a poem because it's my 7 years anniversary with you. And here's the gift for you. I'm not asking for anything. It's not the flowers. It's actually coming from a different state, right? So I feel and I believe and I reject not to believe this is very possible to do now at this time. And it's possible only when you give up of your identification from I'm a provider, I'm a victim, or a creator, a body who just procreates, right? So, or I need to be a father, or I need to be a mother, and I need to do this. And like once you give up of it, it's where that happens. And also to acknowledge one thing, it does not live 24/7. Those are glimpses.
Mm-hmm.
So it comes and shows, and often we don't honor. And I feel and I believe that this shows in every single human now at this time. We just don't do anything about it. It comes in inklings of synchronicities. It comes in, oh, I really wish I could tell you I love you right now. Not because it's our anniversary, because I genuinely want to just turn around and hug you and hold you.
Mm-hmm.
That's the love that I feel is very much missing piece. And that one moment of that connection with one that is outside the structure, but yet has the open windows and doors is what puts the two together
Mm-hmm.
even closer.
Yeah.
And I don't need to tell you that I worship you. I just need to look into your eyes and I need to hug you. There's no words that explains this.
Yeah. Well, I think there's there to play, I like to play the what about this? Um Sex, there's like an exercise in let me worship you as an act of sexual service that is super powerful. Especially from the male's perspective, when you can worship your wife or your partner, it's playing into that polarity that happens of like in a way you're submitting, you're allowing the authority to kind of like mix, and what happens is like this super amazing experience out of it. It's just to kind of play with it to see how it goes. You can play both sides. The wife can worship them, the man sexually as well. Um, I just wanted to throw that in. But this is huge, and I think this is kind of touching on the phenomena that's happening. Like you said, I think this is what is uh putting cracks in the foundation, is just the performative nature of the relationship and how you're supposed to behave, and how much of that is like, okay, a lot of marriages aren't working, or a lot of relationships do fail, or there is a lot of cheating and there's a lot of betrayal and lying. So where can I find answers? And we tend to look externally for those answers, and then it becomes about, you should do these 10 things for your wife or for your husband to make them love you. And it's like, these are all conditions. And so that being said, like the process of unfolding our conditions with love is just that. It's a process. It's not going to happen overnight. It's not going to happen as soon as we say, like, I'm going to love you unconditionally. Um,
Mm.
because it doesn't, love at that level doesn't mean that you won't have days where you hate that person. Like like Carly said to me, she's like, sometimes I just hate you. And I was like, what? I'm like, what do you mean you just hate me sometimes? What is this crazy talk? She's like, you know how you get. I'm like, what is happening right now? You're totally just, punching me in the groin. Um, but she's reached this level of trust and feeling safe where she can say that to me. And okay, I didn't take it well. I need to process it too. I need to, well, it kind of hurt me. Like, I didn't know that you felt that way. Or I'll try to, like, this is what I actually did. I was like, when do you actually hate me? She's like, when you're being a jerk the other day. And I'm like, okay, was that hate, or was it just, I'm making it easier for me to accept? Um, but I have a
Funny.
question. Yeah.
Go ahead.
So for couples where they're experiencing this, cracks in the foundation and the pressure to perform, the process of like stepping out of that, do you I'm asking the question, I'm kind of getting the answer, like whatever, but I'll ask it anyway. Do you think there is or maybe there's many methods to go about assisting in that process, or is there like a mantra to hold on to, or like,
Control it. You mean to control what may also be inevitable?
yeah,
Okay,
it's
let
almost,
me.
it's almost like, what tools can we offer, or what tools can someone have?
I don't have a tool. There's no book to read in it. This is only speaking from my experience. But accepting what the worst nightmare and fear of it all
Hmm.
is it, which is that it also has a potential to end.
Yeah.
Meaning, what am I going to do if it's not there any longer? What am I attached to? What am I holding on to? What am I trying to control? We enter any type of companionship, partnership, or togethership to last until we die. That's the program. That's the structure. We do not enter into such an intimate, vulnerable states with another being knowing it will end. That part of brain does not exist. But as we don't enter into this life thinking we're going to die, same exact thing. So playing with that is my method.
Yeah.
And really learning how to accept that my wife is bound to become a different energy and evolve. And tomorrow she might sit in meditation, now wake up 13 days later and totally be different. Is my role to hold her and not allow her to do that because I'm afraid?
Mm.
And do I want to play that exact role? Or would I rather be witnessing a greater power in front of me and actually having an honor to do this with another being who tomorrow can very much be open to something totally different? And it's very scary to do that. I'm really having a hard time. I have the styles, attachment, avoidant, and all these different things. And I always psychologically understand what's happening on emotional level. And we're all trying to figure out our emotions. They're there, and more are coming that are not known. More are coming, and more we will associate ourselves with. Loving is that freedom. For me to love you, even if when you don't choose me any longer. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
That's the method.
Yeah, it does beautifully. It's funny because when you bring that up, I think of in the last, well, since I would say since our relationship has taken a turn toward more authenticity. It started with Carly having a vision of her life ending in 8 years, which meant the relationship would end in 8 years, or like as I know it, the relationship would end, the physical aspect, and fully kind of going through the process of the ego death and the ego of the relationship,
Mm.
um, or whatever we attach to it. So, and then now, this year in February, going through like this relationship actually is ending, like having the immediate threat of that or the immediate aspect of that and having to process what that means, the emotions behind it. It was the most healing thing that we could have done. And it's of course the paradox, right? It's like to be the temptation that's coming up for me is like, let's prescribe the death of the relationship to people so that they can heal. But it's like, how do you can't fake it. You can't replicate it or force it or control it.
Mm.
So, but maybe instead it's noticing how fragile the relationship actually is, and then maybe the memories, the times where it might have ended, spending more time reflecting on those aspects, and then just spending time with like who are you without that identity, who are you without the attachment, um and then kind of unraveling the codependency. I'm just kind of spitballing ideas here.
Mm.
There's so much, it's like there's so much potential when you begin to contemplate death in any aspect, and that's part of the spiritual awakening is the ego death too.
Mm.
So it's like it's parallels in the individual in the relationship with another being in the relationship with the universe.
Mm.
Um, and of course, Melissa, like, doesn't this make so much sense that love and fear are like two halves to the most perfect sandwich? You have you approach fear to deepen your love. You face it.
He, oh, this is perfect closing. In CDs, he explains that these forces will fight for the highest of ideals and hold the ideal for all those who will follow them. Those with this CD will gladly die for the highest ideal, the ideal of communion between all beings. The lives of such people become myths, often because of the sacrificial nature of their deaths.
Mm.
Sorry, he was explaining how first you have to go through hell
Yeah.
of it. Oh, to be a master. Here, scratch. You must lead by example. You have to know the absolute horrors of living within the most tightly controlled hierarchical situations. You have to understand the human need for control and the depths of your own fear of losing control. You have to be tested by the forces that will not relinquish control, and you have to continually be subjected to external controls. Once you see it, you become a master. As if you had to watch it and see it clearly in front of your nose in order for you to totally shift your perception about it. And how I see it, Eric, it's almost as if it's very hard for us to shift the perception that we are perception or definition or that programming unless we push right after the limits. I don't know why Bruce Lee is again coming into my mind. And his story about the demons that he's fighting, looking in their face.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, it had to come almost to an end in order to get rebirthed. Before, he almost had to die, technically, in order to be birthed. And this does not happen on call. It happens when it's time for it.
Spontaneously.
Yeah. And when we control it and we want to hide it and we want to suppress it and we don't want to talk about it and we don't want to address it, it's gonna happen. And that's the part that it's like, it's bound to happen. Like you can't, I don't know, do people have happy lives the day they're born until they die? I don't know. All I know is that they struggle and they go through struggles. And it's the struggles are there to help us get to that, to pendulate from the whatever, one state to totally different state. We don't know that both sides exist unless we test both. And we only test them when we experience them, when they come and they hit you like, man. So there's no method, just experiencing it all.
Yeah.
Now
So
we can laugh about it.
Two quick things that come up. One, I'm grateful for the shifting and polarities on like a collective level, because it seems like the world's falling apart, right? Like no one's in a happy marriage, no one's figured it out. But it's allowing the opportunity, and I'm grateful for that. And then did I forget the second thing? Oh, I think of I'm not gonna say names, but a couple who is on the brink of divorce, separating in different households. Now they're back together. Now they're figuring it out. And then it's like the swinging, the back and forth. Separate again, now they're back together, now they're figuring it out, and then they're separate 2 months later, or it's not really clear. We're just kind of just taking it day by day. Is this like is this just repression? Passivity to what's happening? Because like I think, is it that the aspect of the death relationship, even though it's like being talked about externally, it's not truly being felt? Because otherwise, why would you repeat? Like, if you're truly like going through a death, would you just jump in again and again and again, or would you get yourself out? Or I'm just kind of, because that seems to be a common pattern too.
My experience is when it's done, and you just know there's nothing else there left, as if it feels completed. This back and forth might be because it doesn't feel completed, but there's this knowing that there's nothing else that this person can teach me any longer, or that I can exchange with this partner of mine. And the longer it takes for me to accept this, the longer back and forth becomes.
Yeah.
But there's also another side of it, which is, but I really want to work this out. So unless I know what I want, independently of what my partner wants, will get tossed all over the place and
Yeah.
trying and again and again and again. So I don't know the answer to your question. What I know is that it becomes non-negotiable, and non-negotiable for your energy when you know that there's no more exchange, that it's almost feels very contractually completed on a very deeper level, rather than, then to the point where the marriage, the house, the money, the joint accounts, they don't really make sense any longer. Meaning they're so easy said than done, but I've done this exact thing and they become not valuable any longer. It doesn't matter what you have together, as if it feels completed. These two souls have nothing. They completed it. They completed the journey together. And to allow both to expand to another journey is really what we get attached to. And we attach to whatever structure and who's paying what and who's getting what is material stuff and everything. So I think on a humane level, humanity itself, we are actually forced to find new ways, no matter what, because the old doesn't work. Your role as a male who cuts the wood and provides me fire doesn't work any longer for me who procreates. It doesn't work for you either. So you and I are going to change states, countries, planets, and go back and forth and travel in between until we find a new way. We're actually forced to find a new way, and it's beautiful to see it. It's like I don't see the relationships any longer the same. I'm entering them, I'm trying them, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm the same. It freaks me out. I was like, I don't want to be the same. Let me figure out if I can do something else. With that, literally comes with me changing who I am immediately. I was like, I have to change the way I approach you. I cannot demand this from you, but I can learn how to give it without getting it. And it comes with pain, with crying, with this is not going to work, with fuck this shit. Oh my God, am I going to stay alone forever? Right? It comes with all this bulk of fears and stuff like that. So back and forward, it's just another way of fearing it and attaching it and detaching it, or maybe even questioning, or maybe even knowing that there will be the guilt if you didn't give a last chance to it. But when it ends, and it ends for both. And that way, I think it's beautiful when both sides feel completed. So maybe the method is see if you can stay until the other side is completed. I think that's the right way to do it. Yet not sacrificing yourself. Try to find that answer within. Are you staying? Are you leaving? And be honest to you,
Yeah, and I would say like that's while also holding integrity. Like if you're having to compromise your values or anything like that, and like you said, the word non-negotiable, that was such a key change for me in viewing like whatever the hell I thought the problem was in my relationship. Is you were like, well, what is it that you want? And I was like very vague. And you're like, well, what do you actually want? Like on a day-to-day or a physical or a emotional level. And I was like, oh, I actually haven't thought about this. This is all just kind of, I'm just playing. I just didn't know. And so, in really thinking through it, it was like, well, I want this. You make your list, and then it's like, okay, which of those things are non-negotiables? Meaning, if you don't get that, or it's not exchanged in the way that you are looking for, the relationship is over. It doesn't mean anything anymore. And out of that, I came up with one thing. Carly came up with one thing. So we had two things. And in the last 4 months, we haven't done either of those things once, but we love each other more than ever. So it's just interesting how, like, sometimes we just need to come back to identifying the authenticity of who we are, what we want, and then playing in that, but also like trusting, or I guess I should say, letting go of the control aspect that this, of course, when I set non-negotiables, it felt like a controlling thing, like this must happen. And at the time, it did need to happen. It was super important. But what actually happened is by her setting hers and me setting mine, She saw what was important to me. I saw what was important to her. And we found different ways to provide that without it being as cut and dry as what we came up with in the beginning.
But that's the new way,
Right.
you see, and but it, it's like you took time and intention and
Right.
will and desire, because it wasn't over, right? So even though it felt over, it felt like the end of the world, deep down you both knew it wasn't the end. There is the way. And that it really starts from acknowledging that there's like, I'm not ready to complete this at all with this soul. There's so much more. And it's not just physical, right? So once, and like you said, sometimes just acknowledging the emotion really just dissipates it. It's just puffs away everything. But at least sitting with it and understanding yourself is the only thing that I see I can do.
Mm-hmm.
Just get to know myself, psychoanalyze myself and how I react to it, and see, do I want to live like this?
Mm-hmm.
Do I want to be this partner? Do I want to date me?
Right. Powerful question. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thanks, babe. So
I love
good. Whew, this one was fabulous. I'm about to end.
Yeah.